Hello and welcome to Vlog 3, my coaching assessment. Over the next 10 minutes I will be critically analysing a component of my own coaching performance based on a recently conducted and recorded coaching session. The purpose of this vlog is to analyse a particular component of my coaching process. Specifically, I'm going to focus on my intra-session interaction with the athlete. In this case, I'm working with a distance runner called Will. He doesn't normally incorporate resistance training into his programme, but he would like to start doing so and utilise some simple Olympic lift derivatives. You'll be able to see that he's a complete beginner simply from his body awareness and control of a barbell. As such, he's less trained than most athletes I work with, which has its consequences and features in the critique of my own performance as a coach. Before I get into the details of the session, a little more detail on what it is that I'm going to be analysing is probably required. I'll be analysing my intra-session interaction with the athlete. This can be further refined to the intra-session cycle of coaching interaction with the athlete. I don't have time to talk about coaching cycles in any great depth, though for the purpose of this review, the intra-session cycle of coaching follows the same basic principles of the plan, do, review cycle and is a crucial component of the overall coaching process. It enables effective real-time coaching of the athlete and helps to ensure the content of the training session is considered, purposeful, useful and effective. For this reason, it's an essential for a coach to master this type of interaction, as it's the linchpin in empowering the coach to add value to the athlete's training. For instance, a coach may be a great programmer, have a deep understanding of movement mechanics, sport-specific skills, and be extremely organised with administrative support. But if they cannot effectively convey their knowledge to an athlete, react to circumstances, adapt, modify and quickly identify where value can be optimally gained within a training session, then arguably they're not an effective coach, even if they could be an effective member of the supporting staff. I will summarise the critique of my own coaching performance at the end of this video, but I think it's important to signpost what I've identified at the start in order to add context to the distilled clips I've chosen to show you. In terms of attitude which leads to behaviours, I've identified I can be an over-perfectionist to mine and my athlete's detriment. This attitude can lead to behaviours such as trying to verbally describe too much to the athlete, spending too long trying to perfect certain movements before moving on, and modifying a session needlessly to try and correct an issue which wasn't necessarily relevant to the session. This willingness to modify a session culminated on this occasion with a decision for Will to remove his shoes and perform an unplanned drill, which in hindsight was not beneficial. That said, Will and I were both pleased with the overall session and I think he made tremendous progress. Now, without further delay, I'll show you a compilation of our session.
We're going to go sort of high pull from the high hang, then we're going to sort of muscle clean from the high hang, and then go into a power clean where you start to dip underneath the bar, and then we'll start to incorporate the full hang position rather than the high hang, starting off with finding that right position and the transition from that position into the high hang, doing that correctly, and then putting it all together into a power clean, if that makes sense. Just remember, fully open up, chest up when you're at the top. Straight arms at the bottom, mate. Just let the bar hang. Start to incorporate the turnover. Okay, you're slightly wider on that side than the other side, so just, yeah, okay, there you go. You just bring the elbows up a little bit, is that all right? We were going up onto our toes for triple extension, which is what we'll eventually need to do. Yeah. But in order to make this particular bit of the process easier, we'll cut that out. We'll keep flat feet, and then we'll reincorporate the feet going up onto the toes when we start to do the power movement. Just a simple dip to probably about there is probably fine for now.
So the power's coming from my hips.
Yeah, power's coming from the hips. The bar's moving vertically, and then you drop underneath it.
Oh no, it was my feet.
That's fine, mate. Don't worry about it. To make it slightly easier, we'll go from what we were doing before, catch it, and then squat a little bit, and then back up. Take a break when you need to. You'll have straight arms, and then it will reach the hip crease by the hips coming to meet the bar, rather than you bringing it into the hips.
Right.
Good. before moving on, what I'd like to work on next is just what the feet are doing, and the knees are coming in and the heels are coming off. Is just pause for maybe a second and a half in the bottom, just a noticeable pause. You don't have to stay there, but just to think, I'm firm, stand up. Okay, we'll do one, we'll catch it, stand up, just relax, pause, and then we'll just try and do a bit of a squat, and just think, knees out, foot flat on the ground. So I tell you what, now you've taken your shoes off, mate,
Yeah.
just do what you're doing before, because it's going to feel different. Just do a few reps and get comfortable, and then we'll start to incorporate other stuff. You're starting to do slightly different things with the clean element now. Perhaps you're thinking about the squat before you've got onto that bit.
Yeah.
So just think about what you're doing before with getting under not lifting the bar up, but just getting under it. Better. There you go. Less chance of the bar hitting you in the chin then. We'll progress on to the transition into the hang rather than the high hang. So rather than try and do the full movement straight away, we'll just start to get the correct position there, and then the transition, that's probably about where you want to be. So that's good. So your hands are in line with your knees, and your shoulder is directly above your knees, and you're hinging. Shins vertical, keep the bar in touch with your legs. Straight arms, nice, good. There you go. That's it. Back straight, pinching the hammies, good. All the way up, nice. Good, good. Cool, really good work today, mate. That's really good progress.
In summary, I think both Will and I considered this a successful session. He was very pleased with the progress he made, and I found the process very useful from a self-reflective perspective. Particularly so because it's been some time since I've taught weightlifting to an athlete without any sort of resistance training experience. I think my intra-session coaching cycle proved to be quite effective overall. The mid-session intervention of a muscle clean from the hang, followed by a quarter squat, worked very well, whereas the power clean from the high hang, followed by recovery and then a quarter squat, appeared to detract from the session. This is directly linked to focusing too heavily on squatting mechanics, which I'll refer to again shortly. Being a perfectionist is a double-edged sword and wasn't very helpful in some respects during this session. But before focusing on the negatives, a quick look at some of the positives and justification. I try to get each athlete moving as perfectly as possible from the outset and spend longer perfecting each component of the lift rather than combining the components prematurely and going back at a later stage to correct faults. This way, the participant has a better and more intricate understanding of the weightlifting movements, how the different components of the overall movements fit together, with the body positioning at the end of one stage seamlessly fitting with the body positioning at the start of the next, and because the positioning, leverage, and areas of tension and relaxation are more effective and efficient, the participant can produce force more effectively and thus move more weight. This of course comes with a positive psychological benefit, and the athlete is safer and less injury prone through avoiding faulty or dangerous movement mechanics. However, there is a trade-off to this approach. The slow pace of progression and perception of an overemphasis of the finer details can sometimes be frustrating to the participant. This can lead to less buy-in and enthusiasm for training and ultimately stunt progress if they lose focus. Communication with the athlete can take too long and detract from the time spent practicing. This isn't an inevitability of this approach, but can be a symptom of it. This was somewhat present in mine and Will's session, perhaps exacerbated by the fact I knew he was a complete beginner. And finally, this overemphasis on correcting detail can lead to a negative coaching intervention mid-session. In our example, I now believe it was the wrong decision to become overly focused on Will's squatting mechanics and for him to remove his shoes during the session. His squatting mechanics are an important component to focus on in the medium to long term, but detracted from reaching the goal of this particular session. To conclude, I believe I've highlighted an overall personal attitude to coaching, which in the example of coaching Will has had two negative consequences. Firstly, a behaviour which requires improvement, and secondly, an event which I could have handled better, which was the coaching intervention where Will removed his shoes and the practice drills were amended. To end on a positive, I found this personal review very helpful, and I think it's self-evident that Will is nevertheless progressing well. Thanks for watching.